So here's what the most successful business owners do. And this was one of the things that I had to learn going from 9 failed businesses over an 8-year period of time of all sorts of different businesses to, now being the CEO and founder of a company that does millions of dollars a year in revenue. And my last few businesses have all done over $1 million. And so if you're looking to start and grow a business, or maybe you've already started a business and you're looking to generate more income and generate more sales and become more successful and experience more of your dreams coming true, then this is the video for you. And watching this video is going to give you this one hack and insight that if you really apply it, it's so simple in concept, but when applied, it's powerful. And every single successful business owner that I've met, especially the ones that are way more successful than me, they all do this one thing. So let's check it out.
And so a big thing that richer people do is that they will act with urgency. And I would say that this is just not even richer people. This is entrepreneurs specifically that I'm making this video for, is that they act with urgency. All right. And so you can tell in some ways how successful someone's going to be by how quickly they do things. The gap between thoughts and action. And so this is something I personally work on a lot, which is like how quickly between when I make a decision to do something, does it actually occur? And you can improve your potency as a person, how powerful you are, by decreasing the gap between thoughts and action. Like if you think about the hypothetical extreme of this, the God figure, if you will, thoughts and reality are one and the same. He thinks planets and universes and they appear. And so that would be the...
So here's one of the first times that I really started to learn this and experience this. So basically from the ages of 18 to 26, 27, I, over those years, started 9 different businesses and either gave up or quit or started and stopped or something failed or whatever happened, it didn't work out. And my goal was to replace my income from my corporate job. I was a financial advisor at the time. And my wife has been an entrepreneur for a long time and a successful one at that. And so, I would remember having to go commute into the office, and my wife would just have the freedom and flexibility to be able to work when she wanted, where she wanted. But over the years of us being married, I started to notice a trait that she did that I didn't do. And the longer we were together, the more obvious it became. And then she, just started to point it out. And it was this. It was she would have an idea or she would think about doing something and then she would just do it right away. Meanwhile, here I am. I would have an idea and I would just procrastinate. I'd be like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll put it on my to-do list. I'll schedule it. And I started to notice the pattern of how that was impacting the lack of success that I was creating and wanting to create in building a successful business. And it just became really obvious, but let's keep watching because there are a bunch of examples that I have of this, but Alex makes some really good points here.
Ultimate demonstration of power, in my opinion. And so we can approximate that. We can get as close to that as we can by shrinking the time it takes between when we think and when we decide and then when we ultimately do. When you don't have any more information to collect in order to make a decision, then you make the decision. And you make the decision by eliminating alternatives. So like literally the word decide comes from decadere, which is Latin for to cut off. And so the question is, what thing are you eliminating by making the decision that you're going to make?
And Jeff Bezos has a really, really solid principle and framework on this that we use in our company now and talk about to our team on how to do this. He has a couple of concepts on this in terms of speed of execution overall, but let's go over this one first, a revolving door concept, because it's very, very, very powerful. It's a more applicable framework because just the idea of like be faster is easy to say. By the way, here's one of our core values at Franchise Empire is speed of execution. This is literally one of our core values. Talk to our team about it constantly. Speed of execution. We thoughtfully turn ideas into action quickly and improve as we go because clarity and progress come from doing, not perfect planning. We prioritize moving from idea to task or task to implementation fast. This allows us to learn, adjust, and make progress in real time. Speed is a competitive advantage when paired with good judgment, clear communication, and accountability. We move fast without being reckless, thinking through risk, preparing appropriately, and executing with intent. Boom.
Decisions are two-way doors.
And let me just frame this even more for you. Like, you're thinking about doing something right now. You have an idea to run a marketing campaign. You have an idea that you think, ooh, I think that would work really well. You have an idea for a business. You meet someone and you think they'll be a good person to network with or that you can do business with. And you decide like, hey, I'll call you. I'll call you in a week. I'll call you. Let's schedule something on the calendar for a couple of weeks out. You basically delay either the decision or the action. And we're going to hop back over to Hormozy in a minute, who's going to talk about another framework that's going to be super helpful on how to think about this and what is too slow and what is too fast.
Because I love that metaphor.
If you make the wrong decision, if it's a two-way door decision, you walk out the door, you pick a door, you walk out, and you spend a little time there. It turns out to be the wrong decision. You can come back in and pick another door. Some decisions are so consequential and so important and so hard to reverse that they really are one-way door decisions. You go in that door, you're not coming back. Mm-hmm. And those decisions have to be made very deliberately, very carefully. If you can think of yet another way to analyze the decision, you should slow down and do that. So, when I was CEO of Amazon, I often found myself in the position of being the chief slowdown officer because somebody would be bringing me a one-way door decision. And I would say, okay, I can think of 3 more ways to analyze that. So let's go do that because we are not going to be able to reverse this one easily. Maybe you can reverse it, but it's going to be very costly and very time consuming. We really have to get this one right from the beginning. What happens, unfortunately, in companies, what can happen is that you have a one-size-fits-all decision-making process where you end up using the heavyweight process on all decisions.
For everything, yeah.
Including the lightweight ones, the two-way door decisions. Two-way door decisions should mostly be made by...
So it's a very simple framework. When you're asking yourself and you're thinking about making a decision about something in your business, and this becomes a muscle that you build. There's this phrase, how you do anything is how you do everything. So how you make decisions in your personal life is how you make decisions in your business. And I already know this about myself. When you know your personality profile, I'm a big believer in personality profiles and behavioral assessments. We use them when we hire people. We use many of them. There's one called the Colby. And Colby, one of the categories is what's called fact finder. So if you are a high fact finder, you generally want as much information and research as possible before making a decision. And so you've a helpful framework is the revolving door decision. Hey, if you're going to make a decision that you can easily pivot from, then you don't need to gather a ton of information. So as an example, the way that this plays out can be so silly or applicable to your daily life. When I book a vacation, I'm the booker of vacations in our house or vacation plans. And I like to research all the different hotels. I like to know what all the different options are and read reviews and just make sure that everything is dialed in. But here's the thing. If I know that I'm looking at a couple different hotels, options, resorts, and they have a really flexible cancellation policy, then I'll just book something so that I have it booked. And then it gives me the freedom and flexibility over the next week, couple weeks or month or whatever it is to then be able to, do more research and fact find, but at least we have plans set up because it's a revolving door decision. Now, there's times where I'll go to book something on Airbnb and it's like, hey, there's a penalty if you change it after booking, after the first 24 hours. And I'm like, oh, crap. All right. And if most of them are like that, then I'll take longer to make that decision. And same thing with hiring someone. Like that can be a revolving door decision, but it's so critical. So it's like you want to make sure that you have things lined up. So you're making sure that you're hiring the right person. But let's jump back to Alex's framework here on what this looks like. And guys, again, this is, we have built Franchise Empire into a multi-million-dollar a year company using these frameworks. And I remember I was struggled just to have a business that produced $100,000 a year, not even $25,000 in a year. It's this framework and this mindset that, helped us go from 3 employees a year ago to 12 and to just eliminate this pattern of failing and having these businesses that weren't successful and watching individuals that I thought weren't maybe weren't that smart or weren't the most talented people in the room, but they were way more successful than me. Why? Because while I'm at the starting line, sitting and planning and like trying to map it out, I'm looking at the obstacle course and thinking, okay, I have to get over that hurdle and go underneath that one and around that one so I can avoid danger and pain and make sure that it's all perfect. The other person just starts running. They start running and they're tripping and they're falling and they're bumping into obstacles, and I'm sitting there at the starting line laughing at them like, oh man, or just looking like, oh wow, that's painful. But guess what? Who's winning the race at that point? They're in front, whether it looks messy or not. Here's a motto for you and a mantra that I would say, which is progress over perfection. Done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. So progress over perfection, and done is better than perfect, whichever one resonates for you. Another one is this concept of ready, fire, aim, instead of ready, aim, fire. It's actually a really good book on how to grow a successful business, one that I'm in the process of reading.
The easy tactical thing is whenever you say I'm going to get this done by the end of the week, ask yourself, can I get it done by the end of the day? And that seems like a very small hack, but that increases your pace of progress by 7x. And so if you hear that, you're like, wow, 7x. It's like, yeah. And for that reason, there are people who are working 100 times faster than you. And I think that this is a really good cultural thing, which is
a great example of this. As an example, we have a leadership team at Franchise Empire, and we meet once a week. And there was an issue that came up. We follow the EOS framework. If you're not familiar, look it up. But there was an issue that came up that we didn't have the time to get to in that meeting. And a couple options. We could wait a week until the next leadership team meeting, or it could be addressed in between it. So literally today, I sent a message to the team saying, hey, I didn't want to wait until our next leadership team meeting. Here's the issue. Here's what I think is contributing to it. Here are my potential solutions. What are yours? And it could have easily been that's like a perfect example of getting it done by the end of day as opposed to the end of the week. And look, it doesn't mean that we're going to resolve it today, but at least we took that first major step. And so then the next step, maybe that's in the meeting.
You can just say end of day, not end of week, and not end of month, end of week. So in each of the instances, this is a 4x increase, this is a 7x increase, right? And you can even go end of day goes into end of hour. Now, this is one that Layla talks about a lot, and she's a master operator, is that she heard this from a mentor. She said, if it's a 5-minute task and you have 5 minutes, do it now. And so the amount of times where I'm like, hey, we should do this thing, and then literally in 60 seconds, it's handled by Layla, like while I'm just walking around talking, just like shooting ideas out there, is baffling. And so her speed of like, that's a great idea, it's already been, delegated out. Like she doesn't keep things on her plate. And so there's this big falseness that I think is propagated by a lot of the social media world because it feels good and to get lots of shares, because it gives people permission to be lazy. It gives people permission to tell themselves that they're great just the way they are. I wholeheartedly reject that entire notion. The idea that they sell you is that you're young, you've got time. And I think that is false. Because all this does is extend how long it takes you to remember that, number one, tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Like I just looked at my newsfeed this morning and there was a guy that I knew who's my age and he just died of stomach cancer. Really sad, really nice guy, wife and 3 kids. Into fitness, really in shape, just a freak thing that happened. And so the assumption that you've got time assumes that you're going to live forever, that you're going to live to 100. And we know that that's not true. And let me put this in perspective. 3 out of 10,000 people live to 100. And so everyone has this assumption in their mind that they're like, yeah, I'm at 50, so I'm going to make it to 100. Yeah, well, you've got a 3 in 10,000 shot at doing that. Very unlikely. More realistically, you'll die at the median, which is 74 for men in the US, which means that at 37, you're actually at the halfway point, just in years. But if you adjust for the increase in speed of time, so the same reason that your kid at 5 years old thinks that something takes forever when you say it's going to happen next year, and when you're 40, something that happens next year feels like you blink your eyes and it's there, is that when you're 5, 1 year is 20% of your life. When you're 40, 1 year is 2.5% of your life. And so it very much in a real way is 9 times faster than it is for your 5-year-old. And so it's my belief that as we get older, we don't become more patient. Time just moves faster. And so if you adjust for that time speed, your midpoint isn't 37. it's closer to 21. And so this is also why, in my opinion, when you think back on your life, you have so much meat in the first 20 years, so much stuff happens, all these material life events. And it's because in that time period, it was half of your life. And then after that, everything happens real fast. And so what you have to realize is, one, tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Two, nothing is going to be easy. Just get over it. Every time you think, oh, this could look, just immediately skip to, oh, that's not true. There's something I don't know about that. Just skip to it. The faster you can train that muscle, that as soon as you have this FOMO, just slow down and realize that you don't know enough.
Yep, it's not as easy as you think. Here's another perfect video on this from Jeff Bezos. This was one of the things that I had to move past after all these failed businesses is, chasing the FOMO and the shiny object and thinking the next thing's going to be easier. Like, what's the easiest way that I can make a bunch of money? What's the easiest way that I could get this result? And the most successful people know it's never as easy as you think it is. And oftentimes you'll ask some business owners, like, did you think it was going to be that hard? And if you knew it was going to be that hard, knowing what you know now, like after you've been through it on the other side, would you have done it? And they'll be like, no, I would not have done it. And so sometimes that helps us, the fact that we don't think it's that hard, at least because we get started. But the key is in sticking to it. And I'm going to leave you with this video here. Actually, we got to bounce back to the Alex video to hear what he has to say. But this is powerful.
It's easy to have ideas. It's very hard to turn an idea into a successful product. There are a lot of steps in between, and it takes persistence, relentlessness. So I always tell people who are, who think they want to be entrepreneurs, you need a combination of stubborn relentlessness and flexibility. And you have to know when to be which. And basically, you need to be stubborn on your vision, because otherwise it'll be too easy to give up. But you need to be very flexible on the details, because as you go along pursuing your vision, you'll find that some of your preconceptions were wrong, and you're going to need to be able to change those things. So I think taking an idea successfully all the way to the market and turning it into a real product.
Yeah, 100%. So it's hard. He talks about the relentlessness. I think about this in Franchise Empire in this business is that we're on year 5 now, and I've fundamentally changed the entire business model 15 months ago, 16 months ago, and that allowed us to double last year in 2025. And so really it took years to finally figure out the right way and what our model was going to be. Look into the story about Muscle Milk. It also took Muscle Milk years before they finally clicked and found their business model and the avatar and their target market and the right product positioning to actually become successful. I think it took them like 6 or 7 years of them just like grinding and struggling, failing forward.
It takes time to get good. There's no one who's good at anything that was immediately good at it. And the people who are immediately good at it, I remember telling a professor, I was like, I've just naturally been good at languages. He was like, when you were a kid, did you have multiple languages in your household? And I was like, well, yeah, I'm bilingual. And he's like, what are you even talking about? Like, you literally started with that. And so of course languages are easier for you. And so the thing is that the people who have things that come naturally to them, they just only came because they forgot the work that generalized to the new skill. Once you realize that it takes time and repetitions to get good, then you also realize that the sooner you start, the sooner you get. And don't stop until you do. Real quick, if you were a business owner.
Yep. And so look, if you enjoyed this video, now you're thinking, hey, what's the vehicle? What sort of businesses do I start? Then in this video, you'll be able to watch me break down 7 different businesses to start for beginners that is going to be helpful for you and at least give you some options. So be fast. Go watch it now. Don't wait.